Kind of a mixed bag there. I thought it was going to be more confident. It's like, we actually have to play better.
I think he was right on the money. Like, on paper, I think we all agree going into that Super Bowl, even though we picked the Chiefs, Philly was better most places. On paper, they were better except for the head coach and the quarterback. And I think could be the same thing with Baltimore. And the quarterback, there's a smaller gap between Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes than Jalen Hurts.
But they didn't lose the
No, I know, but right. But he's like 2 years ago, they didn't play their game. Like, on paper, they have it all. I think their defense is going to be better next year because they got better going in the second half of the season. Offensively, you got the quarterback. You got receivers, Zay Flowers. Assuming they're healthy, the offensive line is good. And Derek freaking Henry. All right, the tight ends, I mean, again, they didn't execute when they need to. But I love Isaiah Likely. Their question is between the ears. And I think last year they showed some progress in that Lamar got over the hump against Pittsburgh, even in the playoff game. Yeah. Played much better in the playoffs, had the 2 big mistakes. You can't overlook those. But his game was good overall. Yeah. And so I would and then again, seeing Kansas City get dismantled in the Super Bowl, I think will help them mentally as well. So there's no excuse for Baltimore not to be able to get it done. Buffalo is right there. Kansas City will be right there. But on paper, they got enough.
Can I ask it's kind of right now just being taken as a given that seeing Kansas City get dismantled is good for the other teams in the AFC.
Yeah, we kind of just say it now. No proof.
There is an argument to be made, the exact opposite's the case. That it's like, oh, wait, this team that we can't beat, that we have acted like is this invincible juggernaut, turns out not only can they be beaten, they can be maybe we're further away than we thought.
But you don't think they think Philly's like that. Baltimore played Philly and lost, but it was
I think everything that could have gone wrong in the Super Bowl for Kansas City did, and they did things that were very uncharacteristic. And they're, even the kickoff return after the first touchdown, I mean, they were a tackle away from breaking that for a touchdown. If that happens, the momentum of the game could be radically different than it was. So yeah, it was a terrible day, and that's a score that you got. But I'll let's play that 3 out of 5 times and see where those teams come out. I don't even think
we were talking about this now. Well, I'm into this.
So do you think what Nick said?
I think Kansas City had a bad day and Philly had a really good day. And if you played this as a best 3 out of 5, I don't know if we're going to look at 3 knockout blows in a row.
No, I tend to agree with that. But
yeah, I think that it was a bad day and a good day, unfortunately, on the biggest day, and that's what happened.
Do you think this has put a dent in the Kansas City mystique?
Well, to some degree, but you still got to go beat them. I've seen fighters knock out guys, and then, they fight somebody else, and they get knocked out. So you still got to be able to beat the fighter in the ring that pretty much nobody else has been able to do, and Philly did on a one-time deal. We beat the Rams in that Super Bowl as 14-point underdogs. If we had played them 3 out of 5 times that year, I don't know if it would have gone the same way.
I know that wasn't really the topic we were doing here, but I have good news for you, Coach.
What's that?
Because we have an open spot for the second Chiefs guy on the show. Because abdicated it.
Okay. I'm actually going to do this clip twice. I want to talk about the Baltimore Ravens, and then I'm going to unpack separately what Mangini said about the Kansas City Chiefs and Eagles. Because that's a different topic, as Nick even just said. Like, that's, so... in terms of the Baltimore Ravens, and, we have everything you want to win a championship and stuff like that. The problem has been with the Baltimore Ravens has been their failure to execute and meet the moment. That has been the reality for them. Just even look at week 1 of this season. I really fully expected the Baltimore Ravens to just be an avalanche. I expected them to kind of not do exactly what the Philadelphia Eagles did to the Chiefs, but I expected them to be like, this is absolute revenge. We were the better team last year. Our last game, you beat us, and it was a fluke. It should have never happened that way. And we are going to come out, and we are just going to get after you. And that did not happen. And that was jarring for me to witness, because I was just kind of like, I don't understand. These players should be playing better, harder, more physical, more focused. And they just simply didn't. And this whole season for them, they just never got things right. They had moments where you're like, how does any team ever beat them? How do they ever lose? You know, Derrick Henry is absolutely unstoppable. Lamar Jackson looks absolutely transcendent. That defense is physical and hard. And yet there's other moments when you're just like, do these guys know what they're playing for? Do they understand what they're trying to achieve? And like I always point out, every Ravens video these days is like, the penalties, I find that so indefensible. The way how they get their penalties and the way how they get themselves in trouble game after game after game, drive after drive after drive. And that's why I always point to coaching. And I don't know if I have the strong confidence that they're going to go out and make aggressive moves to make sure that this last season and the season before does not happen. And again, compare that to the Philadelphia Eagles. They made sure that the year before did not happen. And they made sure that the year before in 22, where they came up short in the Super Bowl, did not happen again. That's what they made sure of. They said, we need to improve our defense. We're getting defense. We need to improve our defensive coaching. We're getting the best defensive coordinator. We need to get a more balanced offense. We're getting Saquon Barkley. Like, they did every single thing that they needed to do. And in that very Super Bowl, every single player was ready for that moment. And it's so perfect because there were multiple moments where Travis Kelce was trying to get up to his usual antics, trying to get the Philadelphia Eagles players worked up, trying to like get in a fight with Jalen Carter, who we know can run hot. You know, same thing with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, another defensive player for the Philadelphia Eagles, who can also run hot. Like, he literally got thrown out of a game this season. And Travis Kelce was trying to do all that, and the Eagles won another. And they knew it too, because C.J. Gardner-Johnson put his hands behind his back. He put his hands behind his back and just stuck his, and was like, okay, you know, like, Travis Kelce's coming at me. Like, but he was signaling to the refs, like, I'm not doing nothing. And you compare that to what the Baltimore Ravens do, and they're always getting into trouble in that regard. Against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, against the Pittsburgh Steelers, against the Bengals. And I made videos being like, what are you doing? You know this game is going to be physical. You know this game is going to be contentious. Grow up. Grow up. Be dominant. Be the aggressor. Be physical. Get into some trouble, but don't get into some trouble. You know, be smart. Understand, when you're the better team, you don't need to rely on that. Right? You let them cry and complain and be a bunch of babies. You be the men. And when I see the Baltimore Ravens fall prey to that, I'm just like, stop. You're too good for that. And that's preparation. That's execution. Those things matter. So no, it's not about like, well, Lamar Jackson just has to play better and you know, Mark Andrews has to catch the ball. Like, yeah, those things are relevant too, of course. But there's still other indefensible moments. Many indefensible moments. And we don't have to like keep talking about the AFC Championship game or even the divisional round against the Buffalo Bills, because that's a thing of the past. But even in that game against the Buffalo Bills were more prepared and ready to play. They were ready for that moment. Even though you can make the argument that the Baltimore Ravens had higher highs. And it's the same thing for the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills. It was clear that the Kansas City Chiefs were more prepared and ready for that moment, where the Buffalo Bills were 1,000% not. Not even close. Not even close. Like, not even for a moment. You got to be ready for the moment. And now compare that to what the Philadelphia Eagles did. They were the most prepared team and the better team against the Packers. They were the most prepared team and the better team against the Rams. They were the most prepared team and the better team against the Commanders. They were the most prepared team and the better team against the Kansas City Chiefs. You need both to meet it all together. Sometimes when you're more prepared, you can beat the better team. And sometimes when you're the better team, you can beat the more prepared team just because you're just that much better than them. But once you kind of get in the playoffs, you're not typically that much better, right? Whether you think the Bills are better than the Ravens or the Ravens are better than the Bills, it's not like that much, right? It's not like all we do is just got to show up, right? In those types of games against the Chiefs, etc., the details matter. The little moments matter. That little 10-yard penalty is not little. It's massive. It becomes massive. And we know that. We've consistently seen that. That turnover in the red zone is the difference between going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. and not even getting out, not even reaching it. That's what we're talking about here. And so we can say we have everything you want to win a championship. You know, we can say that. But it's just like, you got to have this preparation. You got to have the execution. And it's frustrating to see. You know, like when I watch this, I'm just like, this team should be so much, they should be dominant. They should be physical. They should be, you know, teams should feel that they're just completely beat up. This is the Baltimore Ravens. They should all, you know, you should be looking throughout the broadcast of the other team just being exhausted and beaten up and sitting on the bench. You know, it reminds me of when Caleb Williams was on the bench and he was all like in agony and in pain, and he couldn't get comfortable in his body on the bench. Like, that's what every Baltimore Ravens game should look like for the opposing team. And it just rarely ever is. You know, you don't see the Ravens send a message or make a statement. At least not this season. I'm not going to go back in all the seasons, but at least this last season. They did against bad teams. And you can make the argument that they did it against the Bills, but the Bills were also kind of a wishy-washy team. They played horrible against the Texans. They just, you know, I don't know what the game plan was against the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, they played a ridiculous game against the Rams. You know, even that game against the Cardinals now that the whole season's all said and done, it was like, what the heck was that game against the Kyler Murray was balling out like he was literally a Hall of Famer, you know, like he was literally like a top 3 quarterback in the history of the NFL. Like, so there were some moments. And again, I'm not saying like it still wasn't a great big win, and I'm not acting like the Bills were trash, but you just can't hang your hat on a regular season win, especially when you now play them in the playoffs, and that's the outcome you get. You know? The statement to be made was against the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Like, that was the statement game. And it wasn't executed, both offensively or defensively. And then when you follow that up with like some bizarre losses against the Browns, the Raiders, you're just like, huh? And then even a game against the Philadelphia Eagles, who we obviously know were now a top team, you played them good, for sure, but you were also outplayed, out-hustled, you know, the physicality, out-physicaled, for a loss of a better way to put it. Like, again, that was just a reality. Like, I referenced this before, like the Cooper DeJean tackle on Derrick Henry was like, you are not going to muscle us. You are not going to bully us. And from a Baltimore Ravens perspective, they needed to show the Philadelphia Eagles, we are going to muscle you. We are going to be more physical than you. You think you can do this to us, but you can't. It's up for the Baltimore Ravens to be able to be like, you can't do what you want to do, and we can do what we want to do. And again, look no further than the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles versus Kansas City Chiefs, because that is exactly what they did. They said, you can't do what you want to do, Patrick Mahomes. And Spags, you can't do what you want to do. We will do exactly what we want to do. And then the rest ends up being in the details. Like, I don't think the Baltimore Ravens are this really like nuanced team in the sense of like what we've seen the Kansas City Chiefs be over the years. Like the way how they were kind of winning these close, tight games. Like, no. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Be the bullies. Be the guys who take care of it. You know, they pay attention to detail and they take care of business. But it's more about like, we're wearing you down. The game is close until it's suddenly not. The game was close in the NFC Championship game until it was not. You know? Like, that's what it was. The Philadelphia Eagles defense forcing all those turnovers. The Baltimore Ravens are supposed to be the top defensive team. Like, that's what they are culturally. And then the offense is supposed to be this high-powered, unstoppable offense. And it wasn't in the games that mattered most. It became disjointed, ill-prepared, lack of an identity, an abandonment of the identity. And again, from the outside looking in, it's genuinely frustrating to see. It really, really is. Because if you told me, based on how the Baltimore Ravens played, especially from like 23 onward, the season where they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFC Championship game, if you look at that whole season and even this season, if you told me after a few games in that previous season that the Ravens wouldn't find a way to like at least make the Super Bowl over the next couple of years, I would have been like, no way. No way. And that's why when you now kind of like, I think it's kind of important to kind of like reflect on what you've seen now. And when you see how other teams play, like the Eagles, like the Chiefs, like the Bills, you know, like the Commanders, like once it's all said and done, it's a lot easier to kind of reflect on like, okay, because now we have the full picture. And now we can really put things in perspective. Like, again, the Arizona Cardinals example is perfect. Like, we now know who that team was over the course of an entire season. We know who the Kansas City Chiefs were over an entire season, right? We know the Bills. And so now you can really kind of make sense of what you saw throughout the season. And I encourage you all to like actually like reflect on it, to actually like think about it. It's how you get closer to the truth. And it's how you figure out like what went wrong, what went right. You can keep telling yourself, we're actually this great team, or we're actually really better in this or that. We just didn't step up when we needed to. It's like, those are all easy things to say, but that doesn't actually get you to where you need to go. The Philadelphia Eagles could have taken that path and said, hey, we were this great team. We started off 10-1, and then we had the supernatural funk, and we just let things get away from us, but we're good. We're good. They were like, no, we're not good. Those first 10, 11 games are actually kind of misleading. Yeah, we were 10-1, but like we were not as good as we wanted to be. We were eking by. We needed to make aggressive moves. We made aggressive moves, and those moves directly led to a Super Bowl. That's the benefit of facing reality. And again, I'm not saying that the Ravens necessarily have to make like these insanely aggressive moves or whatever. But something, you can't just say, well, we got everything we need. We got everything we want. And, you know, we have everything you want and to win a championship. It's like, yeah, but. And it's up to you to figure out what is that but. Is it coaching? Because if there's a lack of preparation, a lack of execution, well, then that's on coaching. And then if it's coaching, well, then like what decisions are you making to fix that? And if you actually don't have everything you need and you need to be better in key positions, it's like, okay, so then go out and do it. Go out and do it. The Philadelphia Eagles fundamentally rebuilt their defense. They got Saquon Barkley and then rebuilt how they go about their offense. Like there's concrete things, because the Philadelphia Eagles definitely also had a ton of everything that you would need to win a championship. They had AJ, they had Jalen, they had the O-line, they had the D-line. You know, like they did have it, but it wasn't enough, and they recognized that. They admitted that. So currently, right now, the Philadelphia Eagles are the perfect example team for a lot of these teams to look at. Again, you can't just copy and paste what they did, but you can use it as a reference point. You can use it as as like a, you know, motivational or an inspiring piece. It would make sense to do that, because of not only that they won, but how they won. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Baltimore Ravens? Do you agree that they have everything you'd want to win a championship? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.